Hi, I'm State Representative Antonio Parkinson, and we are back with another episode of the Tennessee Black Caucus Weekly. It's been a long week, an interesting week, and an exciting week. Our members are out there doing great things for the citizens of Tennessee, and we have another rising superstar right here with us for the Tennessee Black Caucus Weekly. He is none other than State Representative Torrey Harris.
Thank you so much, Representative Parkinson. I sure appreciate that introduction. I really thought you were talking about yourself when you said superstar.
I wish, you know what, I am, honestly, first of all, let me tell you publicly, I'm proud of you and all of your accomplishments, kind of watched your trajectory coming up, before you were elected. And man, you got some incredible legislation.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm glad you noticed it.
Right,
so that's good.
Yeah, man, you do. And I think it's going to be impactful for the people that we serve. But I want, before we get into legislation and your agenda items and strategies for this session, you got to tell me about the experience. How does it feel, man, to be in that seat?
It's different. I appreciate this opportunity. But we make so many impactful decisions for people, and it's more than just the legislation that we actually do. I think a lot of it is the backhand work that we have to do, the negotiation and the conversations that we have to have with people, even just our constituents alone, just being able to talk to them and being able to know what it is that matters to them directly. And we're up here trying to do our absolute best. And of course, we're in the minority. So we're doing above and beyond what we possibly can do just to make sure that our people back home know that we are actually putting in the work for them. So I'm happy to be up here. I wasn't expecting it to be like this. This is much different than what I was expecting.
Really? Tell us about that. Yeah, so what were the expectations? I'm excited to hear this.
So with me running for that seat, I just knew that by winning that I was going to have people on both sides that were going to be like, I'm not too happy about him winning this, but getting up here and actually being part of this huge family, I feel like everybody has been extremely welcoming. I get so many different compliments on just the way I make sure that I carry myself in doing this, and so I appreciate all of that, all the knowledge that I'm gaining. You obviously were riding with me heavily, so I appreciate all of that, but it's definitely been an experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, man. Look, and I like to put it in perspective for individuals that are elected to these seats. The state of Tennessee is about 200 years old, maybe a little bit more. Yeah. And so what that says is there haven't been many people that were sitting in that seat before you. I know your predecessor, Representative DeBerry, he was in the seat for 20-something years, if I'm not mistaken. 26 years, and that's how it was with my predecessor, the late great Ulysses Jones. He was in the seat for 26 years, and just think about that. If they were in the seat for 26 years, state ain't but a couple hundred years old, so there, were people before them, but not many. Yeah. So for you to be in that seat, number one, you're making state history. You are in the books, in the history of the state of Tennessee. Can you imagine that? Did you ever imagine?
Yeah, and going back over it, every time we walk out onto the House floor, just thinking about that, I look into the ceiling. I don't know, people probably wonder, what is he looking at? But I just look up there, it's just an honor to be able to stand down there and say you're part of that history. Once you are out of there, people don't really know exactly what all influence and impact that you made. But while you're there, appreciate it and take advantage of it. And so I've done that. Obviously, my predecessor has moved on to greater heights, and it's been a blessing for both of us. Yeah. We've had to work together on different things, and so just to be able to, make this transition as smooth as possible for people in my district, because at the end of the day, it's all about representation for them. That's what they send us up here for 2 full years, to be up here and just speak for them. And I have to sit here and do all this all over again in a little bit, but it's really just an impact thing and an honor to be up here. And I have to keep saying that because everybody doesn't end up here. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people run for this. A lot of people want to be up here. A lot of people just don't even understand what all it is that we do up here. And so there's sacrifices that you have to make for people. Yeah. And so it's just a part of who we are now. And I'm just glad to be a part of the group of amazing legislators up here trying to do better for Tennessee.
That's good, man. I remember when I was in your position and I'd just been elected, and I actually got here late because I had to go through some special elections. And the freshman class that year, they were already elected. So when not only did I show up late, but I was the only black person that was elected that year, and the only Democrat that was new that year. And when I came in, I never forget this. My first constituent call. There was a young lady called from the district, and she was crying on the phone, and she was saying, my child support checks have been held up. They're not coming, and we are about to get evicted. Myself and my 3 children, we're about to be evicted, and I've called DHS and I've called Maximus, and I just keep getting put on hold and transferred to phones, this, that, and other. And so I never forget this, man, like it was yesterday, because my assistant Vanessa, shout out to Vanessa, right, was standing by. We were talking to the lady on the speakerphone, and so we put the lady on hold because I honestly didn't know what to do, right? And I asked Vanessa, I said, so what do we do now, right? And she said, you called DHS. I said, well, she was been calling DHS and she's gonna get put on hold. She was getting put on hold, they'll put us on hold too. Yep. She's like, no, you call the commissioner of DHS. And we made that phone call. 3 days later, this lady received 3 checks in the mail, 3. And she called us back crying again, right? But this time there were tears of joy and appreciation and thankfulness for us because we did what we did. Yeah. And it goes to show, the point I'm trying to make is this: these positions open up so many doors that and it's unfortunate that the general public have hard times to get through. So that representative form of government, us representing the general public and our constituents, we free up a lot of things for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think even going back to what you were saying with unemployment, a lot of our constituents don't even know that we can assist in that process, that we can help push that along. And those who do know, they make sure that they reach out to us. Yeah. So obviously we have a responsibility on us to make sure that we are giving that information out to them, to let them know what it is all that we can do for them. And so I try my best to mention that to people whenever I'm having conversations in groups. Hey, this is what I can do. I can do this. If you need help with it, reach out to me. Let me know, because we serve you. And we spend all of our time serving you, and it's something that we have to make sure that we're doing our best at when it comes to people. So I try my best to make sure that I'm accessible for one, but that people know what services that we can actually do for them aside from just going up and pressing an A and a no vote.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because one of my favorite quotes from myself is, I am not a politician. I am a servant who just happened to be elected. That's right. Right, and and it goes back to honestly, the people we like to support that to be elected are people that were already doing work on the ground prior to running for office. But tell me this: what is your biggest constituent concern that you hear from your constituents about?
For me, I guess the biggest concern that I really hear right now, especially with everything going on, is more so of, hey, what am I going to do to get me over to the next week, the next day? And a lot of that comes from, obviously right now we're living in a time of COVID, a whole pandemic is going on, and we have legislation, some good, some bad, but there are some things that are really just hurting people. We actually have a bill that's going to be heard soon about lowering unemployment from 26 weeks to 12 weeks. And so that is going to be very impactful. I'm hearing so much from my constituents about that. So that's a huge piece right there. But also just the general basic needs of, hey, I want to send my child back to school. We want to get them back in there safely. How can we do it without, getting sick? Right. We even have young people reaching out to us, and that's amazing. That they are reaching out. Young people are reaching out saying, I don't live with my standard parent. I live with a grandparent, an older parent. You sending me back to school right now, and I get sick, and I bring it home to them. They get sick. Who do I have after that? Just things like that. We hear so many different issues and valued issues from our constituents, from people in our community, the people that put us here. That we have to listen to every single one of them, and we try our best to figure out where we can fight on.
Right, and that multi-generational home is very common in the communities that we represent. Absolutely. And so all of those things have to be factored in, when we're discussing this legislation or policy ideas. that are coming forth. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people don't realize, yes, while we are also presenting and authoring legislation, we do a lot of work in fighting bad legislation. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, even just fighting it on the back end. We're in offices, we're in meetings, we're having conversations. Hey, let me stop you on the elevator and have a talk about this, because sometimes there are some of those bills that we know are still going to pass, but we want you to know why we think they shouldn't pass. And so there's a lot of conversation that we have to do with our other fellow counterparts who sometimes, especially from areas outside of where we live, we're in Shelby County. There's people who represent up here in different districts that don't understand what poverty looks like. They don't understand what it looks like to not have money and a job. They don't understand what it looks like to have multiple children. And so there's a lot of things that they just don't understand. They don't understand what it looks like to be inside of black skin.
Right.
And so there's things that we have to do on our end and say, hey, look, this is a deeper conversation. I even go back to just yesterday. I had a piece of legislation, a bill that was in committee. I don't know if you saw it, but like we were up there and I was talking about it. And initially, I think everybody probably was going to vote no on that bill.
Right.
And they ended up doing a roll call vote on it. It didn't pass the first time. And then I walked out, they called me back down. It passed on the second go around because they miscounted. But it was because it was legislation. I think unanimously, had they just did a voice vote, it would have failed. But it was a bill that would help communities, especially those who are living paycheck to paycheck. It was a bill that would make sure that your utilities didn't get cut off.
Which is a good bill.
Yeah, it's a really, really good bill. And I think they understand the high level experience of it. Obviously, there are some people who think more so about, well, how does that affect the business part of it? But we're focused on people.
Right.
Our thing is about what can we do for people. And I think that piece of legislation was going right there in that direction. And so I'm really, really happy to see that it came out of committee successfully. But we have to do little things like that in order, conversations and me giving a whole breakdown about the legislation, kind of lighten them up to understand that, no, this is to better people. Our goal is to better the lives of over 7 million people in the state. And so if we can touch at least 1 or 2 lives, that's what we should be doing.
Yeah. What are some of the surprises, though, for you? After being elected, you get here. What has been unexpected?
So unexpected that no matter what side you're on, you don't always line up with everything someone else has. Yeah. We just watched on today where someone lost all their committee seats because of something that they disagreed with someone on their own side about. And so there's things that, we just combat back and forth, but at the end of the day, we have to be up here to be a positive movement for people altogether.
Right. And, it's interesting because I was speaking to some other individuals in the media that deal with media, and I was talking about strategy. And I try to explain to people, likability up here is extremely valuable. If they like you, at least they will hear you and even be willing to work with you on some legislation. But if you get in, especially being in a super minority, if you get in a position that you're not liked up here, it can be bad. And that's what we witnessed today from individuals from their own party.
Their own party.
Yeah, right. And I tell people, there are politics inside of your own party, and you have to deal with those issues, even within the Democratic ranks, and the Republicans deal with, issues within them, with themselves inside the Republican ranks. They tend to eat their own.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But
we see.
Right. Yeah. And so, it's not, that was one of the things that surprised me, because when I was first elected, I guess I was a little naive to think that, all the Democrats are going to always be on board with all the Democrats, and that's not always the case. Yeah.
And a lot of that goes back to, I'm a Democrat, but I'm a Democrat in my district. My district is who I represent, and so I have to do what's best for them, what they would want, not what another Democratic district in another area would want. I have to do specifically what my people that put me up here, because just like they put you in, they can take you out. Right. And so it is overall, like, just being up here all together, and we get on that House floor, all bets are off.
Right.
It's a different beast. You don't know what's going to happen until that board up there says the A's and the nays. So it's different. People have conversation. You're really working your legislation on the floors, in the community, on the committees, in the hallways. I think we get most of our stuff accomplished on those elevators going up and down. Seriously. So I think also just meeting with people. I've had with my legislation, we do. On Wednesdays, once it goes on notice, I try to schedule with the members of the committee so we can go over them. Absolutely. I'd rather you tell me on the front end how you feel about a piece of legislation than for me to learn it once we get up there in that moment. Like there's questions that I can answer beforehand that will make it much smoother. Right. I actually the bill that I just did in committee, I didn't get any questions from it because I had already spoken to every member. Right. And so it was just okay. Well, it's either at yes I support it or no I don't, because there's no more questions. I've already asked them everything. Yeah,
and that's good. And I tell people politics is a game of math. That's it. Yeah. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah. A game of math. Get the majority votes and count your votes. Yeah, count your votes. Yeah, and I tell you too, just a little mentor note from me to you. Even when you get those rejections on these bills, my next question becomes, hey, what can I do to make it better? Absolutely. Yeah. What do you think would make it better? How can we make it work, right? Not if we can do it, but how can we do it, right? Yeah.
And actually, so I had another bill where it was a really, really great idea, amazing idea. Now,
so we think anyway.
So we think,
right.
But then they didn't like the way it looked, but they told me on the front end so that way we could work together to craft it the correct way, or the way that would be appeasable to everyone on both sides. Right. And that bill went through just as smooth. Yeah. Very, very happy about that. And turning around, thinking about it, Monday I'll actually be walking my first bill to the House floor. So,
yeah, all right. Yeah. Put that round of applause in there. Yeah. Hey, that's going to be good stuff. I can't wait. And I hope y'all watch this because it's going to be funny. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. I got to make sure I'm speaking on that one.
Well, hopefully y'all don't take me too hard. But that bill is going to be about parents with disabilities.
Which is a good bill.
It's an amazing bill because there's a lot of parents who have their disability used against them in court, and it shouldn't be. And so this bill would stop that, or put a whole halt in between that when it comes to custody battles and other issues when it comes to disabilities for parents. So I'm really excited about seeing how this one moves on the House floor, and we're going to hope that it actually passes. Obviously, we don't know what will happen until we get there, but I'm sure you all will haze me enough to make sure I see that it's my first bill. Yeah.
So, but let's talk about Torrey Harris. Okay, so Torrey, tell us how you got here.
Yeah, let me go all the way back. Okay. I've been in Memphis my entire adult life.
Right. So I have not been. Excuse me. He's going to go all the way back, y'all. Probably about 15 years.
It's going to take
me. Yeah, he ain't but 15 or 16. Right. But go ahead. Okay. Because he ain't been here that long. Aren't you the youngest?
Yeah, I'm the youngest elected legislator up here. So I just turned 30. Very, very happy about that. But I'm still the youngest. So hopefully somebody will run for office and try to take me out next year. So hopefully there'll be like 26, 27 running for somebody's seat.
Oh, okay. I was confused what you was like. You want somebody to run for office and take you out?
The people want me up here. So
someone just to come in younger.
Yeah.
Okay, let's clarify that, y'all.
Yes, let's clear that up. Okay. I would help somebody in another race. Right, absolutely. Right, but just going back to who I am just a little bit, I've been in Memphis my entire adult life, but I ended up being born, I grew up, was raised in Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah, I'm originally from Arkansas, and a lot of people don't know that. I'm from an area down south near Hope, Arkansas, home of Bill Clinton.
Right.
Yeah, a place called Hope. Right. And so that's where I grew up, around in that area. Went to school like in Camden area right there. Really? So my mom, she was a paper mill worker. The paper mill ended up closing, so she worked at nighttime at the mill, but they closed, and when they closed, the union stepped in. And thank God for unions, and I'm a huge supporter of them for that. It's because they stepped in and they gave them two options. Either they could move to Memphis and work at the location here, or they could go back to college for free. Wow. And she took the option to go back to college for free and became a teacher. And she taught for 20 years. She's been teaching. She's still teaching. She's been teaching over 20 years. Yeah, so it's been amazing. And so I ended up growing up there in Arkansas, went off to school, ended up working for a huge retailer. Somebody gave me an opportunity at a very, very young age. They took a whole risk. And so that's why I try my best to do that for other people, because someone saw something in me and said, you know what, I'm going to take a risk on you at really, really young. Well, that risk moved me to Memphis.
Wow.
And so I ended up coming to Memphis. I've worked in nonprofit. I've worked in helping people with insurance and claims or whatnot. I've worked in retail, big box stores. But all of that to say that I've been in human resources for the last 10 years. And so my journey in human resources has really, really been important to me. Obviously, HR is a background where you're truly focused on helping people, whether that be employment, retirement, training and development, compensation, whatever the area may be. But HR is always a big, huge aspect to any job that you go to. And so it's been an honor for me to serve in roles where I have led in HR. And so I get an opportunity to do that on a local level.
That's awesome, because HR is about making sure that people have the ability for upward mobility.
Yeah,
am I correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love being able to say I do. I'm able to
do
give.
it now.
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole career goes full circle and brought me here, and I'm just grateful for that.
Yeah, that's an amazing story and awesome testimony. And even that, I want to just you kind of hit me when you talked about the individual that took a chance on you, right? Well, our friend Ken Jobe, is Ken even still in here? But our friend Ken Jobe, a lot of people don't know this story, but I showed up out of the blue. Ken Jobe is our press secretary for the Democratic Caucus. So yeah, shout out to Ken. A lot of people don't realize, I showed up out of nowhere and said, hey man, give me a recurring role on Fox 13's Good Morning Memphis with Val and Ernie, right? And so I can talk about Memphis music. I was the chair of the music commission at that time. And he said, okay, that's a great idea, on TV. And that exposure was part of the catalyst that got me sitting here talking to you now.
Yeah.
Right, and he didn't owe that to me. He didn't even know me, but I truly appreciate him and what he did, because when people take chances on you, I always tell people no one owes you a damn thing.
Nothing.
Right. And so if someone does something for you, it's above and beyond what is expected, and it's definitely out of the kindness of their heart. And I truly appreciate that.
Yeah. Going back to it, thinking about how I ended up getting into the race, it's funny. There was a young lady who she does amazing work, and a lot of people back home will probably know who it is. But our commissioner Tammy Sawyer, she ended up running for this. Mine too. Right. She's like a big sister to me. I really think of her as like a mentor. I watch every single thing she does, but she's very strategic with how she does it. I think everybody has a tact to how they do things and how they move. But she ended up running for this exact same seat that I'm in right now. Back in 2016, she kind of made the movement for people to actually start thinking about, you know what, we can get representation that looks like the rest of our community. And so when she ran, she didn't win that race, but she didn't give up. She ended up running for another race. Right. And so right behind her, I ran for the seat. Now, I lost the first time I ran for this exact seat by a very, very small margin, but I did lose by that. And it humbles you to say, you know what, do you really, truly, are you doing this because you want to help people, or are you doing this for some sort of title? And you learn from that. And so I truly focus on helping people. I worked the community very, very hard. I went around to people and really just learned what it is that they cared about. They tell you money, the money part of it will come to like raising money for a campaign, and you can get money from people, but at the end of the day, the only people that matter are the ones that got to go to that ballot box.
That math.
Yep, that's right, that math. Yeah.
Right.
So that's where my focus is. It's always going to be back on the people. No one can convince me or talk me into doing something. And I think that's why a lot of people really like having me here, is because, you can talk to me. I'll listen to what you have to say. But at the end of the day, whatever it's going to be best for the people that I serve and the rest of the state of Tennessee. I've enjoyed this journey altogether, but we all had a way of getting up here. There was somebody that came before us that really inspired us to get up here. We all had some amazing figures in these seats at some point before us. Obviously, those people did the work that they were going to do, and now it's our opportunity and our time now. And so I look back and watch some of the things that you've done over the years. As somebody who also came from local government too, you understand what it's like to actually to be a working person and go from being a working person to being able to be up here where we're working for people.
Yeah.
And so I respect you for that, obviously. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, before we wrap up, I asked Representative Lamar this too when she was on the show, and I'll ask you again. You also, dude, you just turned 30, man. 30 years old. And I ain't age shaming or anything. I ain't hating on you. Just give it time, though. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I still feel 20.
Right. But, seriously, how important was mentorship for you?
Mentorship was very important, and it goes all the way back to how I got started. I was working, I'll be brief about it, but I was working at a hotel in the beginning of college, and we had two celebrities, I won't even say their name, the two celebrities that came in and stayed at the hotel because they were there for business with the retail company. The retail company, they convinced them, and they came over and grabbed me and was like, hey, come meet with us. And that person who came over to meet with me was my mentor, and she still is my mentor. She has continued to move up her career. She has taken on one of the hugest companies at this point, but her mentorship from just seeing me as somebody who was, just working at a hotel to moving me up the ladder up, and she really mentored me. The mentorship that you get, and it doesn't always have to be somebody that always consistently talks to you all the time.
Right.
I see people on social media who I consider as mentors. I follow what they do, and I read, and I kind of study how they talk. There's so many ways to find a mentor. I do believe that we should also, in turn, once we get to a certain place in life, that we should turn around and be mentoring somebody else. The one piece that I think that I missed or wanted is actually how I ended up here, is the part where I tried my best trying to reach out to connect with somebody to learn how the stuff is up here, and I couldn't get any communication from that person. And so when you can't get that, then it's a little bit different transition. And so at some point someone has to come and replace us. I don't know how long I'll be here, but somebody has to come up behind us, and we really need to take the opportunity to mentor and tell people, because a lot of times there's misconceptions about how politics works altogether. Well, politics is one thing, but the public service piece of it is another, and we have to be able to teach that to somebody. Yes, you have to show somebody and be able to guide them along the way, and I hope to be able to do that. Even when I was running on my campaign, I had people work on my campaign to show them just like how you run a campaign. But if you never show anybody, you just throw somebody out there in the woods, and they're just out there in the dark just trying to fight for themselves. And so we have to teach, and I really believe in mentorship. So I'm a part of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, so I got to make sure I put that plug in there too. But mentorship is very important to men, black men, groups of people, organizations, that we support each other, because we have to get somewhere together at some point. And so I appreciate mentorship. I had a mentor. I mentor people, and so I consider you as a mentor. But I consider so many people, so many members of our caucus as mentors. Everybody had their own method of doing things, and I find a piece out of everybody's success to add to my own.
Yeah, that's amazing. I never forget, and we're going to wrap up here with this, but I never forget when I lost my first race. I ran for city council. Myself and Karen Camper, our leader Camper.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we both ran for city council in 2007. We both got our asses kicked, right? And we were on the campaign trail. That's how we met each other. It's so funny. And then we both end up here. And it goes to two things. One, purpose, and I'm gonna come back to that. But the second thing is I remember asking for support of some older elected officials back then, and they were like, yeah, we'll help you, but kiss the ring. And I was like, go. No, right? And so it forced me to go and create my own space, because back then the area that I represent, the Raleigh area, back then I had Raleigh and Fraser. It was just a void of leadership that looked like the population. And so we went in there, dug in, and continued to serve the community. And losing that race in 2007, I was never bitter about it. But what is it? I think 2.5, 3 years later, I'm elected to the state, right? And so, so the purpose, you know, I was operating in my purpose, and you know, and God saw fit for me to be where I am, to be able to operate even more in that purpose. And it goes to you know, what you were saying too, or you know, to your last statement. You know, having, you know, you were asking for help, and nobody, you know, people didn't want to show up.
Nope.
And but it doesn't stop. You don't stop there. And your story, and the fact that you did not stop, and the fact that you are in the most powerful build. Let me look in that camera. The most powerful building in the state of Tennessee. Did y'all get that? Clap, clap, clap. You know, the fact that you're there is going to be a huge inspiration to someone else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, only you can elevate you. And so you can't depend on someone else to do that for you. We have a goal and a mission while we're here, and so we should be able to accomplish that and be able to love ourselves while we do it. And so I'm just, hey, I'm grateful, and I appreciate you having me, though.
Man, I'm happy to have you.
Yeah.
He is Torrey Harris, state representative, the newest, youngest state representative in the Tennessee House of Representatives. And again, this has been Antonio Parkinson. I am chairman of the Black Caucus, and this has been your Tennessee Black Caucus Weekly. Make sure to follow us on social media. We are at TN Black Caucus. Hit us up, share this video. Make sure that everybody can get the same education that you're getting. Again, we appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week.